out this binder with
All
all the
that?
site stuff. Yeah, you know, this is just the application. That's really the.
To the statute.
Well, you can read that if you care to.
I'm not interested in all that.
You are interested?
No,
I thought maybe you got up early this morning.
I did one of those many years ago. It was turned down. It was for one of the main
Okay.
tires out on 42. Actually, it was on 53.
Ready?
Wave
Yeah.
news.
As long as Amy, you ready? Okay. Good to go. All right. Folks, if I could have your attention, I'd like to call the Planning Commission to order for June 27th. Kevin Jeffries, Chairman. Before we get started here, let's do, if you would, join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. All right, thank you all. And with that, I'd like to remind everyone, if you have a cell phone with you, to please turn it off or turn it on vibrate, because it'll pick up on the cameras here and cause some issues with the cameras. So would appreciate that if you would turn them off or turn them on vibrate. Before we get started this morning with our approval of our minutes, I'd like to, for the commission's benefit, introduce a new commissioner, Barry Hampton, on the far end down here. He's, I guess, has been serving for quite some time on the Code Enforcement Board from LaGrange, and I understand you're retired. And so just wanted to welcome you to the, officially to the commission. So thank you very much, sir. All right, with that, Commissioners, I think you've got copies of your minutes from our May 23rd meeting. I'd like to, if I could, get you all to look through those, and if there's any additions or corrections, we'll take those at this time before we approve them. Any additions or corrections? Yes, sir. Mr. Horton?
Thank you. On other business, page 11.
11, okay,
Other business, page 11 of 12, second to last one,
okay.
listing the names of those that went to the training in Jeffersontown. I was left out.
Oh, okay.
That's not of who went, that is who had signed up. So we will officially note who was in the minutes for that, for House Bill 272.
You talking about House?
That's the training was the House
Right.
Bill 72.
Right,
Right.
because that training hadn't happened yet. I mean,
But at the end of this agenda, aren't we approving
yes.
everybody's training?
So you'll get
you'll
those
be
approval of
included
those
in-
training hours.
It's, yeah, I thought that's what it was, but I wanted to make sure it was.
Yeah,
on.
it says those that are planning to attend. So, I mean, we can add you in there if you would like, but we'll officially approve your training hours at this meeting.
You'll be in
Gotcha.
next month's meeting.
Thank you.
Minutes.
All right, any other additions or corrections to the minutes? Okay, seeing none, the chair would entertain a motion to approve the minutes as mailed.
So moved.
Okay, Mr. Douglas, have a second? Mr. McWilliams? All right, all those in favor of approving the minutes as presented signify by saying aye. All opposed, no. Okay, the minutes from our May 23rd meeting have been approved. All right, let's see here. We will now call on Ms. Ethel to, if you would, to read our first docketed item, please. Oh, yes, good. Thank you for pointing that out. We need to get everyone sworn in. Okay, go ahead.
Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
I do.
That was really just for staff.
Yep, sorry.
Sorry.
We'll get you all sworn in. That's right, exactly. All right, let's move on into the docket introduction, please.
The PZ 17-019, application has been filed by Clint Smith for the approval of a development plan with waiver on approximately .823 acres. The property is located at 6521 Veterans Memorial Parkway, Crestwood. The current zoning is C3 General Business District.
All right, Ms. Fox, thank you. And with that, Ms. Alvey, I assume you will be introducing the docket?
I will. Good morning, Amy Alvey with Oldham County Planning and Development Services. As Ms. Fox stated, this is an application for a development plan with waiver on approximately .823 acres in Crestwood. This is an aerial photo of the property. This is the existing Walmart here. This is the existing medical facility that is there off of Veterans Memorial Parkway. History of this entire property. In November of 1989, the Planning Commission approved a zoning map amendment to C1, C2, C3, C4, as well as a preliminary subdivision plan for a development plan known as Cedar Springs, which included this site. That was docket number 1635. Then in February of 2000, the Planning Commission approved a preliminary subdivision plan and development plan known as Oldham Farms, which also included this site, which was docket number 3126. Most recently, in February of 2014, the Planning Commission approved docket PZ 14-003. This was an application by Walmart stores for the approval of a zoning map amendment on the 16.28 acres. And the change was from C2 Community Business and C3 General Business to C4 Highway Service District. That plan included the Walmart site and 2 outlots. And this is docket is the subject of one of the outlots. Then on February 25th, the Planning Commission, they also approved the 3 lots on the 16.28 acres, and they approved a waiver, landscape buffer waiver, and a variance from the maximum impervious surface and a program for signs. That was all single for the Walmart store, did not include the outlots. So this was the 2014 development plan. Again, this is the Walmart location with their existing parking. These are the 2 subject outlots, and the outlot that we are talking about today is circled here, which is the Taco Bell site. Again, this is the 2014 development plan that just shows the location of the Taco Bell site there at the north. And then there is a regional detention facility here, which is behind Camden Station and Kenwood Station Elementary, the South Oldham campus as we call it. And then there's also another regional detention facility that is located behind Arbor Ridge. The applicant is requesting approval of a development plan to include a 2,677 square foot Taco Bell on .823 acre tract. A minor plat was approved on June 29th of 2016 to separate the 1.6 acre tract into 2.823 tracts. This development is proposed on tract 3A, fronting on Madison Park Place and Kidwood Crossing Drive. This is the minor plat. So again, this is the entire subject lot, and it was divided in half, and the applicant is applying for the property of 3A. The applicant is also requesting approval of an impervious surface waiver. The total lot coverage, according to their plan, is 73.85%. The maximum impervious surface in C3 General Business District is 65%. The plan also outlines that they are showing 28 parking spaces. The minimum parking for the restaurant with drive-through facilities is 21 spaces, so they are above the minimum and below the maximum. And the proposed development plan meets all other zoning ordinance standards. This is the proposed development plan. The ingress and egress is proposed off of Kenwood Crossing, which is a private road, and a one-way exit is proposed off of Madison Park Place. So you would come in from Veterans Memorial, and you could come in this way, go through the drive-through, and then you would exit back out here or exit back out this way. But this is an exit only onto Madison Park. This is just a zoomed in version of the development plan. Again, it just shows that it is one way around through here. The plan outlines this would be the, it's hard to draw on here, but that would be the required bypass lane that we have in our standards, our zoning ordinance. For anything that has a drive-through, they're required to have a bypass lane. So if someone is in the drive-through and needs to exit, they do have an alternate way to exit and get out of line. The original photometric plan that was sent to you in your packets shows 1.6 foot candles at the one-way exit at the property line adjoining Madison Park Place. The standard is 0 foot candles adjacent to residential properties. The applicant has revised that plan, and they will go over that in their presentation. But they have decreased the foot candles from what was originally in Brooks' presentation. This is the entrance into Madison Park Place that you're looking. This is Madison Park, and then the entrance into Kenwood Crossing. This is another view. This is entrance of Madison Park Place. This is the entrance from Madison Park Place, and the Taco Bell site is proposed there. This is the existing entrance from Madison Park Place. This is the south view, looking towards track 3B. So this would be the lot that would be behind Taco Bell into the Walmart parking area. This is the east view towards Baptist Health. And this is another east view. This is the west view, looking toward the Outlot 2, which is vacant. And then this is the north view from looking into Madison Park. And you can see a few of the tops of the condominiums there. This is just another north view, looking back into Madison Park condos. So in summary, the applicant is requesting an impervious surface waiver. The maximum impervious surface is 65%. The proposed impervious surface is 73.85%. So they are requesting an 8.85% variance, waiver of the impervious surface area. And secondly, the applicant is requesting approval of the development plan to include a 2,677 square foot Taco Bell. That is all that I have.
All right, Ms. Albee, thank you very much. Commissioners, do you have questions for staff? Mr. McWilliams?
Amy, would you go back to, I think it's close to the beginning, and throw that slide up on ingress, egress to include the drive-through?
Yes, sir. Right here.
Now,
You want the one with the arrows?
yeah,
Is that
do your little drawing again.
Okay. So if you come in from Veterans Memorial Parkway is here, you'll come in through Madison Park. You will turn on Kenwood Crossing, come in, go through. So obviously you can park here. You'll go around, go through the drive-through, pick up your food. Then you can either exit back out onto Kenwood Crossing, or when you get done with your drive-through order, you can go back around and exit out on Madison Park. This will be an exit only.
Thank you. Thank you,
You're welcome.
Mr. Chairman.
All right. Any additional questions? Mr. Horton?
Thank you. If this is the inappropriate time to ask this, let me know. But I'm directing it to staff. There was an awfully lot of questions and a lot of concerns in the TRC. Have they met those, or have they addressed those
I'll let
sufficiently?
Jim answer that. This is actually Brooks' case.
Yeah.
So I was not involved in that.
I
So.
think it's up to the applicant to answer those questions regarding the, no, we'll call Scott up, the county engineer, related to some of the drainage issues, but other than that, it's up to the applicant.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
Mary Ann.
Any additional questions for staff? Yes, Mrs. Smith.
On that, can you show me where the proposed training center for Walmart that's been approved, where was that gonna be?
This area here.
I thought it was more back.
And it's actually under construction.
Thank you.
All right. Any additional questions for staff?
Mr. Douglas.
I'm sorry.
Mr. Douglas.
Okay, let me get Mr. Finney, and then I'll get Mr. Douglas.
On that map right there, run that entrance and exit again, what you had showed if they were going into the drive-through.
Okay, this is the original development plan for the Walmart. So you would come in off Veterans Memorial. You will come in this way. You can park here and here, in the regular parking. You'll loop around the building through the drive-through, and then you will be able to either exit back out onto Kenwood Crossing, or you can loop around and exit out on Madison Park.
So you're gonna, okay, so you actually come in on Madison Park.
Well, Madison Park is the entrance off of Veterans Memorial.
Right,
Madison Park
right,
comes
and
in
then,
off
and then
of
you,
that.
then you go to Kenwood.
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right. I got it.
Okay, Mr. Douglas?
Yes. Amy, I'm not sure if you will answer this or Mr. Harris.
Sure.
Based on that diagram, you see Taco Bell that's up there. Then you have the other outlot, the out parcel, which is right behind it.
Right, correct.
Correct.
Uh-huh.
What would be delineated, or what would we see as far as the divider between those two properties, as far as like, because that's impervious surface there. So is it going to be like a curb going across there, or like if someone
The
else?
applicant can answer.
Yeah, that's probably more of
For the
a
applicant.
question for the applicant.
Okay.
On there, that they'll be able to tell you what that is there on that.
Okay, then my
I'm
next
assuming it's a
question will
curb.
be for Mr. Harris then.
Harris, call you up if you would.
Well, any other questions?
Get you sworn in a while ago, sir?
No,
Okay. Ms. Fox?
Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right, Mr. Douglas?
Morning.
Good morning.
So you don't sound very good.
There's a little bit of pressure upstairs.
Okay. This is under 1 acre. So will they have to propose a stormwater quality management plan?
They've actually gone above and beyond anything required. You hear a lot of testimony in all these cases about, we met the requirements, we met the requirements. Everybody else always says that they met the minimum requirements. These people have already done drainage calculations and sent me a stormwater plan, which is way early in the process. They are not, to answer your question, required to have detention or water quality, yet they have both.
Okay. During your conversations with them, was there any conversations about disturbing the other outlying lot to develop this one particular lot?
No, well, there was a few discussions about sharing an entrance. There was a few discussions about, possibly sharing parking. Until you know what's going to happen on the lot next door, those are really kind of mute questions.
And they aren't doing any development on that other parcel. They don't own it either. So the next people that come in are gonna
They
have
do
to time.
seem to be very open to sharing with whoever would come in.
Okay, thank you.
All right, any additional questions for staff? Okay, seeing none, we'll now move into the presentation by the applicant and, or representatives and others in support of the application. You have 50 minutes, and Mr. Applegate, I would assume you will be presenting. And I would like to go ahead and, I think we kind of had a little swearing in when we started, but let's officially get the folks that will be testifying sworn in. Ms. Fox?
Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
And Mr. Applegate, we just need your name and address for the record, please.
Alan Applegate with Applegate Pfeiffer Pulliam at 428 Meggs Avenue in Jeffersonville, Indiana. So I'm sworn in with that address. There's no reason to swear at. Okay. But we've represented C&M Smith restaurants on several of their Taco Bells. And Mr. Clint Smith is the owner of C&M Restaurants, Inc., who is here and was just sworn in, as well as Nathan Grimes, the owner of the applicant's architect and engineering firm, Renaissance Design Build, Inc. So we have, I think, all the parties to the application. Can we get this thing? Because I'm old school and thank you very much. I promise to put that back. Generally, the staff report is excellent. So hats off to your group for putting together such a staff report. I think that anything I talk about that site would be relatively redundant. I would note that the proposed restaurant designed here is to replace the existing Taco Bell, which is about a mile away from the subject site. It's in a strip center near McDonald's and Hometown Pizza and AutoZone. I don't know the name of that center, but it's within a mile or so of the subject site. Mr. Smith's companies operate about 20 Taco Bell restaurants, so this is not the first foray into this particular business or construction. And I think that Taco Bell likes him, so he apparently does a pretty good product, or you wouldn't have 20 of these. So I would note that. I won't go over the aerial again. I had brought one, but Amy had done such a good job. Unless you want me to put it up again, I think everybody knows where this property is and ingress and egress, et cetera. The application does cover 0.83 acres. One of the notes that you had asked about the TRC, the minor subdivision plat has been recorded. There is the file stamp on the deed with the minor subdivision plat. Again, so that was one of the items in that May 11th post-TRC meeting and evidence that the minor plat has been recorded.
We're going to need anything that you show us.
I'll just hand you the package.
That'd be fine.
We believe that we've addressed all of those matters. If you want me to go through them line item by line item, I will. Obviously, the minor plat's recorded. The address is a notation, not a requirement. Parcel number was added to the plans, and presumably the PVA will split it now, the minor subdivision plat, but it will emanate from that key number. The development plans have, and all the plans submitted to date do include the information required or requested in items 4, as well as 5, 6. 7, we will also be constructing a sidewalk along the exterior of our lot that's handicapped, accessible, et cetera. The parking spot on the left side of the handicap parking, you won't see that in your current plan because it was removed. We've got a typical parking stall note. All of the table items are indicated. And the ingress access points proposed at Kenwood Crossing, I'm sorry, we had talked about a shared entrance off of Kenwood with the other 0.86 acre lot. Planning and development thought that it would be better not to have that shared access, so the plan has been revised to indicate single access for this site only. Land contours, elevations, I believe Mr. Grimes has indicated those on his plans. The existing drainage easement in conflict with the VUA, the removal and relocation of this easement, I will let Mr. Grimes speak to that. I believe that that easement probably stays underneath the parking, but I'm going out on a limb by saying that. So I will let Mr. Grimes speak to that item. The sign, landscape buffer, and I believe that we do have a landscape buffer, but I believe that the landscape plan, we've tendered a preliminary one, and under the staff report, a final plan would need to be tendered prior to building permit. Not sure that we've got a final plan tendered and approved. We have tendered a landscape plan. Lighting plan, we talked about that in the initial presentation. The last one's the filing deadline, so I'll take that back off. the revised lighting plan. I'm sure you can read all those microscopic numbers, but they have been emailed to staff, and it does indicate it does meet your ordinance in regards to the bleeding of light off of our property line. I would note that to the extent, it did not show it initially because the lighting company thought it would be better to have an exterior exit light and a little bit better lighting as it got on to Madison Park Place. That is why we didn't show it as 0 foot candles on the boundary. We've told them that, well, that's not what the planning department wants, but I would note that with Madison Park Place, on the other side of that is a creek and a heavily wooded area. I think you could see it in your pictures. You could see elements of condominium projects across the street, but on that side of the Madison Park, you've got the roadway, creek, heavily wooded area. I mentioned that sidewalks will be are shown on the plan or will be constructed. As to impervious water surface waiver, you know, I perceive in my practice the impervious rule it's a stormwater control matter, as well as some landscaping. Those are the benefits that those rules are intended to affect. In this case, C&M intends to store or detain water from the site into an underground piping system and then release that at a reduced flow underneath that exits into Madison Park Place into, I believe, the creek situated on the other side of Madison Park Place. It's basically 3 24-inch pipes that are 150 foot long that are situated. Now let me do a site sketch instead. Those pipes will be running in this area and exiting in this area to the creek on the other side. So water will be captured and then slowly released off of the property. As a result, we believe that the design will allow this property, even with the waiver, to meet the basic objective of the maximum impervious surface standard. And we believe that the engineering will not be injurious to the public health, safety, and welfare of this area. I would now like to introduce Mr. Smith, who would like to talk a little bit about his business, some of the architectural details, and then followed by Mr. Grimes, who will make himself available to discuss the drainage and other engineering particulars that you had. I hope that I've responded to your question, and thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. I guess we'll just need to get your name and address for the record, please.
Good morning. My name is Clinton Smith. I'm the franchise owner, CEO of C&M Smith Restaurants. I reside at 5140 Charlestown Road, New Albany, Indiana. I've been a franchise owner for 29 years. In fact, I was a young man when I started, so I should point that out. Our company, we own and operate 20 Taco Bell locations. We have 13 in Indiana. We have 7 in Kentucky. Taco Bell has very high standards for food quality, cleanliness, and customer service. We currently own, as you know, a Taco Bell in Crestwood. However, we are looking to move to a new location. Our current location is too small, as well as it has poor visibility from Highway 46. As you've heard this morning, we have an option to purchase land and out parcel near the Walmart and closer to Interstate 71 traffic, which we think will help our business. We plan to build a bigger and better Taco Bell with the most current prototype Taco Bell image. The new restaurant will have better visibility, more parking, improved drive-through experience, and escape lane for customer and our traffic. The dining room also will have a more seating capacity. The kitchen is larger, as well as it'll have the most state-of-the-art equipment for Taco Bell. We will increase our staff at the Taco Bell. Currently, we have estimated 25 employees. We estimate that to be about 35, with 8 of those to be managers. Now, let me show you some pictures, and technology is not my favorite, but I'll show you some pictures of a Taco Bell that I put in Salem, Indiana. In fact, it's on an out parcel in Salem, Indiana. So this shows the exterior elevation of the new prototype Taco Bell. There's a side, there's a back view, that's not very good, of the drive-through. Also have another one.
Copies of those also for the record.
Yes, sir. Like I said, technology is not my favorite. There's another picture of the Taco Bell, which shows the new image with the logos. Next thing I'd like to do is show you some pictures of the signage of the Taco Bell. It will have the standard sign, which is 25 feet in overall height, 93 square foot. And of course, we now serve breakfast at Taco Bell. We open at 7 o'clock in the morning. We close at 1 during the week, and then 2 o'clock on Fridays and Saturdays. Here are some other pictures of our building logo there. And that's just a picture of the Taco Bell signs on the building itself. I think the other thing that I'd like to do, take those. I know the site plan, she did a really good job of going over that, but I mean, as you can see, the main entrance will be off of the Kenwood Crossing Drive with one-way traffic of getting in. You can see that the position of the building is facing to the west, with the drive-through flow on the north side of the property, and there is an exit in the back for exit only. I think the escape lane provides a feature for a customer who perhaps might get in the drive-through and they decide that they want to come in and see the great-looking dining room that we have, so they can circle around and come and park and get inside the restaurant that way. So that's a layout of the facility itself. At this time, I will turn it over to Nathan Grimes. He is my architect, and he can talk about the technical features of the Taco Bell restaurant. But I want to thank you for your time this morning.
Thank you, sir. And Mr. Grimes, again, name and address, please.
Nathan Grimes with Renaissance Design Build. 1012 South 4th Street, Louisville, Kentucky is the address of our Louisville office. And here representing Clinton Smith with Taco Bell restaurant here. I just review a couple things, and I think I can answer a couple questions that maybe was presented, and then we'll kind of open it up for comments or questions you may have. I think, once again, staff has done a very good job reviewing this. One of the questions was, we are actually, I guess want to clarify, there is an existing entrance to this site located on the adjoiner, so we will have a separate entrance onto Kenwood Crossing Drive. Just want to make that clear. The existing entrance that was shown is about right here, so it's not even on our property. So just so everybody understands that. Also, we are going to do a concrete curb all along the front and the back, and we'll be about a foot off. I think we're a foot off this side and 2 foot off the back, so that's how we're addressing that issue with the adjoiners, what we're going to do, and it'll be probably sod for that foot to our property or 2 foot to the back. So the question about the reason for the waiver is it's a very tight site that we're requesting, and we're 8% under the requirement, and we would actually have to have a green space bigger than our building to make that work on our site. So it's just not feasible for us to meet that. We have actually added some landscape islands and some things the best we could, but due to what we need on our property, we really can't meet that constraint. So that's the reason for the request. The next page is what we're doing with drainage. We are tapping into the existing drainage. We'll have several catch basins in our parking lot. It looks like we've got 4 of them. The last one is the one that takes care of the first flush issues to oils and stuff on site. And then here we're having 3 24-inch pipes that contain and detain the runoff so that the pre and post are the same on our site. So, and then that actually goes into the existing catch basins here at the corner, and it goes out to there's a creek across the road here, across Madison Park Place. So it's pretty simple. We're draining everything to those inlets, and then it goes off site and the detains under the parking lot. So I think that was one question, maybe what we were doing. This is kind of the landscape plan, what we were presenting, and we have got we have shown a 10-foot landscape buffer here on the site, but we're actually putting our landscaping not in that buffer, but the landscaping will be next to our curb and gutter on a pasture lane, because that's actually 4 or 5 feet higher. We think that's really the intent of, if we put our landscaping in this landscape buffer, it's not going to do anything to shield our site and lighting and stuff like that. So it's not exactly meeting the requirements of the landscaping thing, because our landscaping will be outside the landscape buffer, but I think it actually meets the intents of what your ordinance will like better by doing that. So there'll be a row of bushes and shrubs along there. We're actually putting a fence here on this back entrance so that people turning into the drive-through lane and all, it kind of deflects that from across to the neighbors across the street. So that's kind of how we're approaching this, and we'll present this final plan for approval by staff prior to construction and all that. So, that's our intent, and we think that's, we can put those bushes in the landscape buffer, but it won't shield the parking lot and lights and stuff as well as what we're doing now. So, but we'll work with that with staff. And I don't know if you have any questions about that or not. But
And we'll open it up here in a little bit for questions.
sure,
So,
yeah, and then we'll open up. And this is all the landscaping that goes inside behind in their kiosk and stuff for the ordering at the drive-through. So that's what this is here. So that Taco Bell is a typical thing that you want to see at that landscaping. So that's what that is. And we have addressed we've got a revised lighting plan. So it is 0 here where the concern was at this entrance. So Clint's lighting manufacturer did that for us. So I think that addresses all the concerns. I'll open up, and if you have any other technical questions for me, I'll be happy to try and answer them. Or any concerns or issues, I'll just put the development plan back on there in case you have any questions.
Okay, we'll have some, I'm sure, here in this.
I'm
just
sure
a
you
little
will.
bit.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. All right, Mr. Applegate, does that complete your presentation, or?
Yes, sir. I think the materials presented indicate that we meet the requirements of your zoning ordinance, which is the purpose of a development plan request, other than the impervious area, and have provided some engineering and other techniques to alleviate not meeting that requirement. We've done some engineering to offset the purpose for the requirement, and we believe that it will not be detrimental to the county or the town. With that, we will conclude our presentation.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. And with that, let me ask, is there anyone here that would like to speak in support of this application? Anyone here that would like to speak in support of? All right, seeing no one, we will now move into testimony and questions by those opposing the application. Is there anyone here that would like to provide testimony or would like to do opposition to this application? All right, I see no one getting up. So with that, commissioners, we'll open it up for questions. Do you have any questions for the applicant? Mr. McWilliams. Sorry, Mr. Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm not sure to whom the best address the question, but whomever. If you're coming off of, if I'm going down Veterans Memorial Parkway, I take a right onto Madison Park Place. The idea would be that I take a right on to Kenwood Crossing and enter the property.
Correct.
Is there any concern on your guys' part of somebody missing Kenwood Crossing, going on up a little bit and trying to go in the exit? And I mean, you know, if you did that, you can correct that pretty quickly. I realize that, but is that a concern at all?
That, we will have signage at here, that says out only. Obviously, someone can do whatever they want to do. And this is I have this restricted down where it's only really one lane. So it's only 15 foot wide. So.
Will there be any signage at Kenwood of any type? I mean, we've got one way here.
There will be entrance signs on Kenwood, yes. Taco Bell has those little signs you see at the entrance, say, enter here. So they will be out on Kenwood Drive, yes, at the entrance, so.
All right, that takes care of it for most people.
But Clint has this issue many times where the drive, where it's only one way around the side and people back up and go the wrong way on the drive-through lane. So that has happened by people. People get confused and are not sure. If they're new to the site, they don't know exactly how to go, not paying attention to where the signs show.
But historically, that's not been a major issue.
Historically, it's not too big an issue, but I'm not saying someone will not enter. I guarantee you the first week or two that will happen, but I don't know how to restrict that other than signage.
Well, and that's why we require a pass-through lane, so if
Yes,
they
sir.
did come in there, they would not be bumping up against cars waiting in queue or trying to get shuffled around there, they can pass right.
So I think we try to address it best we can.
No, you did. I
Yeah,
just
right, but
wanted sort of a historical perspective.
Well, Clint can speak to that. I mean, I have seen where that has happened, where
You
people
guys
run
are-
through the wrong drive.
You're good, I'm satisfied.
Yeah, thank
Yeah, I
you.
mean,
You gotta,
I mean, the site plan will have, we'll have directionals even for the drive-through. Well, the drive-through will have exit, thank you. I mean, we've had people in the past that have tried to go in the back way in the drive-through. And it's clearly marked, not only on the pavement, but with directional signs. So that's a real difficult one to try to manage. So, I don't know if that answers your question.
Yes, sir, I'm satisfied.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, I've had Mr. Horton down for questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There seems to be a little difference between our plans here and one of the ones you showed here. Would you outline exactly where the ordering kiosk would be and where the drive-in window, the service would be?
Sure. The kiosk ordering is that little half circle right there. That's where you order at. And there's actually a bar that goes across. If you've seen them, there's a bar that goes up and goes across, kind of the entrance to the drive-through, which is right there. And the pickup window is right there. That little. So it's about half. The pickup window is about halfway down the building. So we have an 8-car stack in our drive-through lane, which is a requirement of Taco Bell 7 to 8 cars, so we're actually more than the minimum for that, for this site, so.
Thank you. That answers. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, Mr. Douglas. Is your mic on, sir? Thank you.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, can you hear me?
You mentioned that there will be 24-inch drain pipes for the stormwater
That's for the detention.
detention.
The regular pipes are 12-inch pipes, but the detention, there are three 24-inch pipes put side by side.
And you want to explain to us about the collection of that water that goes into that there'll be enough in case there's grease runoff or something like that? Because you're saying you're going to slowly leak that into the stream across the street or into the existing basin already there on the complex.
Yes. Let me get back to that drawing. Yeah. So, yes, so those pipes are basically in the pass-through lanes where we're putting those three 24-inch pipes. Before you get to that, we're putting a, what's called a water quality unit, first defense, I even got them all, first defense 5D4FC or equal, which is what takes out it's a proprietary unit that takes out, it's actually a flume that the water goes through and the sediments drop out to the bottom and stuff.
So what you proposed in the TRC was what you're planning on
That's
doing?
what's, actually, we have revised that in our, after TRC, we're using a different unit. What was presented to Scott afterwards is a different system than that, yes. He did not like the half things, so we're actually putting in pipes, not the chambers.
Correct. And who's going to maintain, do you have an agreement with Walmart, or who maintains that basin
It'll be
already
Clint's
exists?
responsibility to maintain it as a property owner. Everything's contained on his site.
Okay. Would they be willing to put that in a binding element or an agreement? Or, I know we're working on a maintenance agreement now.
Well, they have to because it's on their property.
Right.
And I don't know that that's necessary, you know, it's their
It'll be
property.
their unit, and it's similar to, he's got a grease trap that comes out of his pipe that.
Saw that.
That goes to the, so he has to maintain that as well. So those two elements are just part of the maintenance upkeep of the building for Clint, so.
Okay, all right.
And he has those on other, so he's familiar with that because he has those on all his other restaurants type systems, so it's not I don't know who has to do that, but.
It's a code. We actually have.
You gotta come up, sir.
On the grease trap, we actually have a private vendor that comes 4 times a year and clean and pumps out that grease trap. And they check it for the amount of grease that's collecting in there, so it's done often.
Okay. And I'm not sure who's going to answer this, or staff will. We mentioned, or someone mentioned, the signage. And I noticed that it's in the binding element, but I don't see a motion, or are we passing a program for signs for this today, or what are we doing?
They did not submit a program for signs, so they'll have to comply with our sign regulations.
Okay, so what they presented today, we're not considering that, or?
Well, no, we're not. It's simply that binding element says that they have to comply with Section 290, period.
Okay. This will be my final question. The impervious surface that you were talking about, I know it's a small percentage because it's a small lot. Did you consider looking at meeting those requirements at first when the design was being proposed?
Yeah.
And how many spaces would you have to give up in order to meet that? I mean, to make it simple, I mean, are you talking about losing
You
one
would
parking space, 2 parking spaces?
No, this is the area of my building. So I need an area bigger than that to meet that, so I would be losing all this whole row across the back. You know, if you take that to here, I mean, you'd be losing all those parking spaces across the back basically to meet that requirement, so.
And in order to meet that, was it decided during negotiations of purchasing this property, and you don't have to get into that, but could you have purchased a larger amount of that property that was offered to meet the impervious?
That's not what the minor plat have that, I mean, I'm not saying you couldn't buy a 10-foot strip from somebody else or something, but that's apparently not available, so.
Okay.
A couple of comments. I believe that the negotiation to purchase the ground was well before the development plan. The minor plat was approved almost 11 and a half months ago, that just went of record. So I think the parties went in with the understanding, we split 3 into 3A, 2 equal parts. They're exactly equal in size, north and south lot. I think the first and the TRC meetings, technical review meetings, I'm not sure that we were aware of the pass-through, drive-through lane. And if that was not there, we could meet your impervious requirements. But now we have a pass-through, drive-through lane, which is taking up, in essence, that amount of impervious substance, it's eating into our 65% and pushing us into the 73. As an offset to that, this on-site underground storm pipe detention emanated from that. We have gone up over and beyond according to the county engineer, but that's because of this waiver request. And I think that I've kind of told the story a little bit better in terms of, okay, well, we can meet it. Oh, wait, we've got to drive through. That's eating up, 11 foot by 200 feet or whatever, and that eats into the 65 to 70. That's what takes the 65 to the 73%. I hope that I've somewhat answered your question.
You have, and in some retrospect, what I was looking at is that the planning commission will have to weigh that because you're asking for that waiver.
Right.
But in addition, I'm looking in the future, what's going to be built on the next lot? Will they ask for a waiver too? And
I don't think that's something we can answer.
well, we can, but also for the future of if water flow that comes off of that, I think that's something necessary that we have to ask. I mean,
Well, and they are detaining it in pipes. I mean, they're compensating for the hard surface by putting underground pipe for detention. And I always say this, for the commission members' consideration is, our regulations are written as if every property has adequate space and flat surface and easy to develop. And that's why waivers and variances are part of KRS 100, that you can request these for your consideration, and it's up to you to decide if it's appropriate or not. But, in the case of a development plan not being able to meet it, KRS 100 and our regulations allow for waiver and variance requests. So
I think-
whether or not they've justified
I
that
think
or
if you
not
had
is up to
waited
you.
until I finished, I think you're going into something that I wasn't even going to go into.
Okay.
But what I was trying to get at is that I thought that he's already explained the collection of that. And what I was trying to emphasize is that I believe that they're meeting or exceeding, based on our engineer already coming up here, that they're meeting those expectations and beyond for that waiver. So I was just putting an emphasis on, that's what I'm looking for.
Right.
For that waiver. And I think that that's what our engineer has stated, and I trust our engineer to provide that, and that's only, if you just let me finish that, I would have.
Okay, does that finish your question, sir?
That finishes it.
I just
All
got
right.
one more thing to say regarding that. There are other things that come into play for Clint, and Taco Bell has parking requirements as well that actually exceed the city's requirements. So if we eliminate those, then it doesn't meet Taco Bell's criteria for his site. So that's another issue that there's other issues that are that are not coming into play. So.
All right, let's move on to Mr. Finney. Had you down for a question?
Yes, I have a question for the engineer concerning the drainage and water storage. The drainage on the entrance side of the lot is going to drain to the water storage on the pass-through or the drive-through side of the lot, correct?
Yes, sir.
And be stored
And I'll go-
underground?
Yes, sir.
Okay. The storage underground, we're storing the water, how are we controlling the release of that water?
It is restricted by, in other words, I've got 3 24-inch pipes, but I don't, the outlet is manifold together and it's restricted as it comes out to, by a weir, basically. A weir, like a V weir or something is what restricts it, so, in that manifold process. So I'm restricting, there's not 3 24-inch pipes that come out. It goes to manifold and it's restricted down before it goes to your existing inlet here.
Is that discharge above ground or below ground?
It is below ground into your existing catch basin that's already there, so. So there's an existing inlet right here at the corner of Kenwood and Madison. There's actually 3 at that corner, 1, 2, 3. So it is manifolded down and it goes into your existing collection system that's there now.
But that discharge space is discharged into either a concrete or riprap or basin or something that.
It is a concrete catch basin inlet, yes.
But it's that part of it is actually an open. It is not being discharged into a gravel or
No, it's
covered
discharged.
underground. It's open discharge. My concern is what keeps it from being stopped up. You've got a choked system. In other words, to control the discharge so that you're not releasing the full volume of the pipes at one time.
Correct.
So you've decreased the discharge opening.
Correct.
There is normal trash things that going to get on a parking lot. They'll get into this in a rain. What prevents that
That
from?
actually gets collected back here at this proprietary unit prior to going into the detention, so
So you said the detention water will always be clean.
yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay.
This unit actually has a sump in it, basically, that all that collects in that he has to keep.
But a sump
clean up.
won't catch paper floating.
Well, I know, but it goes down into, the intent of this proprietary unit, and I didn't design it, so I've spec'd them, but it is that goes to, that all falls to this sump, and, then whatever is in the detention is actually just
Clean water.
to answer your question, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Ms. Smith.
Could you have designed a restaurant where you would not have had to ask for a waiver, considering the constraints of the property?
Not on this site, no, ma'am.
Really?
Mr. Urban?
Well, Ms. Smith, if you remember, our regulations require a pass-through lane. The applicant presented pictures of a store in Salem that did not have that. If they didn't have to have their pass-through lane, they could meet the requirements of impervious area.
So I guess
That was part of their testimony already.
Yeah, so I guess we could have asked for a waiver to not have the pass-through lane as well. I don't know if that'd be a waiver, so that would be an alternate, would be not have the pass-through lane on the site, and then we can meet the impervious. So-
In working with us, staff felt that it was better to have a pass-through lane than meet the impervious area, especially since they're putting in underground detention.
All right. Well, my main question was about the lighting. Does Taco Bell require certain lumens for the lighting? I'm worried about the spillover lighting into Madison Park.
We have redesigned that where it is 0 at the property line, so that issue is taken care of.
And will our rules and regulations, since they did not present a signage package, will that take care of most Taco Bells? You could land a small plane. They're so bright and in the middle of the night, and I just don't want that to be next to a residential area.
Well, I think they've testified this morning that they are having 0% light spillover off the property site. So, that's what that's what they've testified to, so.
All right,
Yeah,
thank you.
That's along the Madison Park place, which the residential's adjacent to that across the street, so.
All right, Ms. Crosby, hand you down.
This is the first time that I've heard the term creek in that area. Where is that creek located? I'm looking at a body of water, and that's why I'm saying, repeating what you're all saying.
It's probably, I use the term, and I'm from Indiana.
Well, I think three of you used the term, I'm sorry.
Here's our site. So there is a ditch, swale, creek, some kind of water flow in this wooded area here next to Madison Park Place. I don't know if it's I think by looking on the quad map, it's not a defined creek, but it actually goes to South Fork. It's an unnamed tributary of South Fork, if you want to call it that.
Okay, I understand now what
Okay.
you're saying. It's just a dry drainage area through that area, okay?
Right. Yeah, and I don't know if there's
I
water.
live in the area, that's why.
And I don't know if there's water stays in there or not. No. That's where the existing drainage system goes for those roads now, so.
Well, I was looking for a body of water.
Okay.
It's not a body
Well,
of water.
I apologize if I misspoke about that.
All right, anything else, Mr. Crosby?
That's it.
Mr. McWilliams?
Mr. Chairman, question for Mr. Urban. Based on what's been presented and what we've seen this morning, is it your opinion that the signage on the site meets our existing sign ordinance? I'm not talking about program for signs. I'm talking about our existing sign ordinance.
I don't know that. Brooke typically is the one that does all the sign. What they showed you were samples of the signs. They weren't asking you to approve the signs, so Brooke would then have to work with them. I think we talked to them about whether or not they can meet the requirements, and they did not apply for a program for signs. You can ask the applicant if he has a better understanding of.
Same question to the applicant?
Clint.
We will meet whatever your sign guideline is. I mean, we will use Taco Bell's prototypical signs that Clint showed you, and if it needs to be a
Program for
out of
signs.
90
it will
square
be.
foot, 80 square foot, we will make that work. We think the height meets your guidelines. It's 25 foot. I think you allow 30 foot if I remember right. So I think the signage
Okay.
that.
Will Brooke be running herd on that, so if we
Yes.
get into
Yeah.
that situation
when-
where we need that program of signs, it'll be back?
Yeah, I'm going to recommend that's a binding element, and assuming that they won't come back for a program for signs, that they're aware of what our sign regulations are, and they'll have to submit their sign package just simply to meet Section 290 of our regulations.
That'll take care of it, thank you.
Yeah, we're agreeable to that.
All right, anything else? Any other questions? Any other questions before we move on to the next phase here? All right, seeing none, let's move into, we didn't have anybody testifying in opposition, so I guess we'll move down to Mr. Applegate, final statement.
Please approve our application and our waiver request. We feel like we've justified the reasons for the single waiver, and given your 160-page ordinance, only seeking a single waiver at this juncture, I think is pretty good. And we must remember, this is an outlot that was zoned for this type of purpose back in 2004 when Walmart constructed. So we would ask for your approval. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Applegate, thank you. And so I would assume that completes your application on docket PZ 17019. And with that, I'll ask Mr. Urban and Mr. Combs if you would outline, we will consider the waiver first, waiver request first. So I'll get Mr. Urban to outline that, please.
Sure, you have two decisions to consider. One is the motion for the impervious surface waiver. If you're inclined to approve that, then you'd be asked to consider the development plan for approval. In relation to the impervious surface waiver, the maximum impervious surface in our regulations is 65%. Their proposed is 73.85%, so they're asking for 8.85% waiver. You have a sample motion in your packet on page 3, one for either approval or denial. Ask that you consider there's an A and B, and you use those as a guide for making your motion. and do fill in the blanks, whether or not you've received testimony that would incline you to go in favor or denial. The applicant has submitted a waiver request. It's also in your packet. There is a explanation from both on the application itself and a letter from the applicant's engineer for reasoning why they need that waiver. And they've also, you might include what you've heard in testimony as part of your motion.
All right, Mr. Combs, anything else that needs to be added on the waiver request?
No, not at this time.
Okay. All right, with that, Commissioners, we would now, the Chair would consider a motion on the waiver request. And this is the waiver that's being requested. Mr. Falvey?
I'll certainly try. I move to approve the waiver because the design innovations of the case meet and exceed our basic objectives and regulations.
Okay, Mr. Combs, is that an adequate motion?
I didn't get what he said.
Oh, turn your mic on, sir.
It is.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It is. I didn't hear at that end what his reasons were other than.
Would you repeat that, sir?
And if
Sure.
And I would also include either A or B. You don't have to do both of them. You can do both, but in your motion.
I thought I put in B, but I move to approve the waiver because B, the design innovations of the case meet and exceed our basic objectives and regulations.
Okay,
Mr. Combs, is that adequate, sir?
that's fine.
Okay, got a motion to approve the waiver request of 8.85% on the impervious surface waiver. Do we have a second? Mr. Finney seconds. Now I'll open it up for discussion. This is on the waiver. Mr. Douglas?
Is it appropriate that we amend it and say that the requested impervious surface waiver is for 8.85%?
That's what the motion is.
That's what the motion
That's what the
is.
motion is. What the motion
Yeah.
is. Okay. Yes, sir. Any additional discussion on the motion for the waiver request? Question. Your question? So, Ms. Fox, if you would, let's do the vote on the motion for the requested impervious surface waiver of 8.85% on docket PZ 17019.
Mr. King,
Yes.
Mr. Klingenfuss.
Yes.
Mr. McWilliams.
Yes.
Mr. Neal,
Yes.
Ms. Smith,
Yes.
Ms. Crosby,
Yes.
Mr. Falvey,
Yes.
Mr. Finney,
Yes.
Mr. Hampton,
Yes.
Mr. Douglas,
Yes.
Mr. Horton.
Yes.
All right, the waiver request on docket PZ 17019 has been approved on a vote of 11-0. With that, the chair would now entertain a motion on the development plan under docket PZ 17019, and I'll ask Mr. Urban if he would outline that, please.
Sure, you have a sample motion in your packet for either approval or denial. If you choose to consider approval, there are proposed binding elements. I've altered them slightly, so I'll read them out loud. There are 5. There shall be no changes to the development plan without approval by the Oldham County Planning Commission. Number 2 is any signs must be in compliance with Section 290 and only permitted upon submittal and approval of a sign permit application. Number 3, I have changed. It says, site lighting shall be shielded and aimed away from adjoining properties. An updated photometric plan with 0-foot candles at the property line adjoining Madison Park Place has been submitted and is part of this record. Number 4 is an updated landscape plan must be approved by staff before a building permit is released. You've seen that there's one that's been submitted. We just haven't reviewed it. And then number 5, a grading, drainage, and erosion control plan must be submitted to the county engineer for review and approval before a building permit is released.
Okay, Mr. Applegate, are those binding elements, proposed binding elements, are you all okay with those?
In agreement.
In agreement?
We're in agreement.
Okay. All right, you've heard, and Mr. Combs, anything that you need to add on this?
No.
All right, Chair would now entertain a motion on the proposed development plan on docket PZ 17019.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. McWilliams. I'm sorry.
You was asking for a motion.
saw
That
Mr.
was
Defer to
my-
Mr. Horton.
Oh, okay, Mr. Horton.
Back to me. Okay. I'd like to make a motion to approve docket PZ 17019 along with the 5 binding elements that were just mentioned, for referral to fiscal court for their consideration and approval.
Well,
It's not
it's
referred
not,
to fiscal court.
it's not a zoning change.
Correct.
So it's
Thank
just a
you.
Development plan.
Correct. Thank you. Reasoning would be that, first of all, this business is already zoned for this type of business. The applicant appears to be relocating to increase his business and get more recognition. In addition to that, it does comply with goal LU3, which has to do with economic development and the increased tax base, with the 2 objectives of LU3-1, which is supporting existing businesses and retention of the businesses, and LU3-2, which is promoting workplace development in existing centers and so forth.
All right, thank you, sir. Mr. Combs, as always, is that an adequate motion?
I think it is.
Okay. Council says that is an adequate motion, so with that, do we have a second?
Second.
Mr. McWilliams seconds. Any discussion now on the approval of the development plan on docket PZ 17019 on .823 acres? Any discussion? Okay, seeing none, I'll call on Ms. Fox to do the vote on this motion to approve the development plan.
Ms. Crosby,
Yes.
Mr. Hampton,
Yes.
Mr. Falvey,
Yes.
Mr. Finney,
Yes.
Mr. Douglas, Mr. Horton,
Yes.
Mr. King,
Yes.
Mr. Klingenfuss.
Yes.
Mr. Williams,
Yes.
Neal,
Yes.
Ms. Smith.
Yes.
All right, the motion to approve the development plan on docket PZ 17019 has been approved on a vote of 11-0. And with that, we'll take about a 10-minute recess here, folks, and we'll reset for our next docket.
Thank you.
Chief.